In this video, I want to talk about something that I think is extremely important, and that is having a target on your lure for the bass. Now, I know that that might sound a little bit weird, and I'm going to fully explain this because I have seen this be the difference between catching fish and not getting bit or missing a lot of fish. So I'm going to talk about targets on your lures. Now, before we get into the video, this one is brought to you by my apparel company, Finn Fishing. Guys, for just about 10 more days, I am running a sale for the month of May 2024. If you buy one of my USA-made sun shirts, one of the only USA-made sun shirts on the market, you will get a free tri-blend t-shirt, just like this one right here. I have a number of different colors. This is an extremely comfortable t-shirt. It is, you can wear it while you're fishing. You can wear it when you're just out home lounging around. So it's a $20 value, absolutely free. All you got to do is add the sun shirt that you like to cart, add the t-shirt you like to cart. It will automatically discount at checkout. All right, let's talk about targets on your lures. This is something that, like I said, this is so important on some days and not important at all on other days. So let's actually talk about that real quick, because there are days when it doesn't matter if you have a target on your bait. And I'm gonna talk about that in just a minute, what a target actually is. But there are days where it just doesn't matter. The bass are gonna hit your bait fine. There's no reason to even give them a target at all on your lure. Now, with that being said, I have experienced several times where little things on your baits, little targets on your baits can help a fish commit to that bait. Now, let me talk about a few examples. And the first target, there's three different ones that I really want to talk about. The first one is a feather. And this is going to apply a lot when you are fishing a topwater bait. This is, to me, this is where a lot of topwaters that we actually get fresh out of the package, a lot of those come with feathers on the back. Now, I'm going to talk to you in just a minute why sometimes a feather is not a good thing. And this is something that I've experienced actually a lot. But sometimes, a lot of times, if you're throwing a bait that doesn't have any feathers on it and you have fish coming up there and missing the bait, adding that feather on the back of your treble, whether it's a pop-bar style bait or a spook style bait, whatever it may be, maybe it's a wake bait, having that feather sometimes just gives that bass a target. Like I just talked about, it gives that bass something to hone in on where it actually will start committing to the bait in full better simply because you have a feather on the back. This is, like I said, I've seen this a lot in topwater fishing. I've also seen this with some other techniques. For example, on a spy bait. If you guys have gotten into spy baits, I know a lot of you that listen to this live up in the northern part of the country. You know, if you have ever had bass, like whoosh is what I call it, whoosh is spy bait, where it's like they hit it but they don't get hooked up, add a little feathered treble to the back of it. Just very minute feather. You don't want something that's too big because then it kind of impacts the action of the bait. Something that just is a little feather. Actually, what I do a lot of times is I will take a standard feathered treble hook and I will cut it down, cut the feather down a little bit. That works really good. Also, jerkbait fishing, same exact principle. Sometimes if you have fish that are kind of missing a jerkbait, not committing to a jerkbait, adding that feather on there can help give that bass a target where then it can latch on and you will catch that fish. Now, let's talk about the flip side of things, because I have actually seen several times out there on the water where having a feather is not a good thing. And the reason being is that the bass actually key in on that feather too much. They actually use it as a target too much. And there have been multiple days, like this has happened to me a lot, where I'm fishing, for example, a spook style bait, and I'm working that thing across the water, and I'll have fish after fish come up there, hit that thing and miss it. Hit that thing and miss it. They'll get hooked up for a split second, they'll come off. I've had a lot of days out there on the water where that has happened, and simply taking that feathered treble hook off and putting on just a standard treble hook will make a humongous difference in actually having those fish commit to the bait. So the exact opposite of what I was just talking about. That is why bass fishing is so crazy at times. And my theory behind this, and the reason that I think that this happens, is especially in clear water. If you have a fish that is attracted to a spook, it comes up on that spook, it's not always just gonna porpoise it like a great white shark. Sometimes they track that bait. And if they're tracking that bait, they see that feather looks really natural in the water, and it looks like a little bait fish. And so sometimes what I think happens is those bass try to eat that feathered treble. Now, sometimes, like I said, that is a good thing. You will get a lot of fish to commit to that bait because of it. Other times, they're locked onto it too much that they will not hit your full bait because of it. I just experienced this here recently, and simply taking that feathered treble off, putting on a standard treble hook made the difference in those fish like missing the bait and actually T-boning the bait. So that's really, really important. Now, a feather is not the only thing when it comes to having a target on your bait. Another big thing that a lot of guys will do, something that I have done in the past, is put little red dots or red markings on your baits. Now, I do not think that this is always something that needs to be done. But I have seen, again, days out on the water, for example, where actually coloring a little red dot on the throat of a frog actually helps that bass to come up there and eat that bait. Or, for example, actually coloring red gills, like some of your baits, like a swim bait, for example, you'll have where it's like a gill plate, and you can actually color it with a red Sharpie, and that gives that bass just kind of a little bit of a target. So sometimes those bass go from nipping the tail of a frog or a swim bait to actually hitting kind of more of the head and engulfing more of the bait. And a lot of times that helps them to get a hook better. So sometimes it's not an always, like I talked about at the very front of this is not, I don't always do this. It's when I'm out there and I'm fishing and I see bass missing something, missing a frog, hitting a swim bait and not getting hooked up. That's a lot of times when I will start with the red and see if it helps. Now, red is great. Another thing, I never would have thought about this until it happened to me out there on the water. But a number of years ago, I was fishing a lake, and these fish were hitting shad that were about this big. But I could not catch them on anything shad related, like a square bill crankbait, top waters. I couldn't catch them on anything. But what happened was I got in the boat with an angler, and I was primarily flipping and pitching. I knew that these fish were eating these small shad, but I couldn't catch them on anything. The only thing that I could get these fish to eat was just a flipping and pitching bait. So I said, forget about it. A co-angler got in my boat, and he started flipping and pitching pretty much the exact same bait. The only difference is that the crawls on his plastic bait that he was flipping, he was dipping in Chartreuse, just the crawls. And this was a speed crawl, Zoom speed crawl. And so when he ended up catching a lot more fish and a lot bigger fish than I was during that day. And I think that the number one reason why was because those crawls, he was, like I said, he was dipping about this much of the pinchers in Chartreuse dye. And basically what that Chartreuse dye was doing was it made that bait look like two little bait fish. Those crawls, those Chartreuse crawls were resembling a bait fish, a really small bait fish to a bass. And I'm telling you what, I picked up at one point we were fishing the exact same bait, exact same weight, exact same everything, and dude was really putting it on me. And I thought, like, what is going on? Like, he's in the back of the boat and we're flipping and pitching, right? Like, it's not like we're fishing off the bank. We're flipping the exact same things. I'm getting the clear shot at things before he is, and he's catching fish behind me. And not only that, bigger ones. He was catching the best ones of the day. So what did I do? Just like any other angler, I broke out my Chartreuse dip. I dipped my tails. It was immediate. Immediately, I started catching fish. So not only did I thank that angler, I ended up getting a check in that event because of that angler. It was awesome. But that little difference, again, it was like giving a bass a target. Instead of them not really caring about my flipping bait, all of a sudden these two little chartreuse tails were flying in front of them. And I really believe that that bass, maybe they just like the chartreuse color, but what I think happened is it resembled just those little tiny bait fish. It just looked like a little pair of bait fish swimming by, and that's what the bass wanted. So guys, there are days when a target means the biggest difference in the world. Not all the time, but it can mean a huge difference. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, you might like my most recent one. And if you want to support the channel, click this link for fin fishing. I'll see you guys tomorrow.